What is up? It's a Fit Gear Hunter, and today we're going to do a re-review for the Garmin Forerunner 255 in light of other watches that have come out in the last 12 months to see how it still holds up. So if you like this review, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more. Now, this is not a comprehensive deep dive on all the features and benefits or necessarily an up-close look at the 255. It's basically just going to look at some of the watches that came out right before it last year and that have come out since to see how it still competes. This is an emphasis on elements that support CrossFit or high-intensity interval training or a more intense training regimen and training load, as well as the wellness and recovery features that would want to keep up to support that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do sort of a pros and cons of the competition. And then second, we're going to look at a summary of the primary features, benefits, and details of the 255. And then third, we're going to talk about the basic summary as I look at the watch landscape and what do I think of the 255. Now, in getting into the details of what we're going to compare it to, we're going to compare it to the Coros Apex 2, which came out about 3 months ago, the Suunto 5 Peak, which came out sometime in the last 6 months, the Polar Pacer Pro, which I think came out about the same time, and the Apple Watch Series 8, which has come out in the last 6 months. Now, looking in simple terms, these are all basically $300 to $400-ish watches. The baseline 255 comes in at $350, and if you want music storage and the ability to stream playlists from Spotify or Amazon Music, it's $400. Now, the Coros Apex 2, not the 2 Pro, is $400. The Suunto 5 Peak is $330. The Polar Pacer Pro is $330, and the Apple Watch Series 8 is $400. So they're all right in that price range. If you bump up the price a little bit on any of the other sort of variants that some of those companies are offering, then you would look not to this, but to the Garmin Forerunner 955. So with that, let's look at the competition and sort of the pros and cons there, and then get into the 255 itself. Now, starting off at the top with the Suunto 5 Peak at $330. The pros on that one is you get training load, and they do a training load that's offered by Training Peaks, and so you're able to see your stress, your fatigue, your form, and it is a very well laid out explanation. Additionally, they have something called Resources, which is a variant of all-day heart rate variability tracking, which correlates to a stress, which correlates to the wear down of your body, which is what they call Resources. It's the same type of thing as you would see in Garmin's Body Battery, although Garmin's Body Battery is a little bit more in-depth. On the con side of the Suunto 5 Peak is that it's a 1.1-inch screen. Now, that is super small in the landscape of watches on the market today, and the limited sleep analysis makes it not as useful. Plus, it's just an overall sort of one-dimensional platform when you look at the Suunto. So when I get a final verdict or look at a final verdict for the Suunto 5 Peak, it's not really a contender in my mind, although it can accomplish a simple version, a little bit more in depth on the training load tracking and a little bit more simple on the wellness and recovery tracking. The small screen size just sort of blows it out of the water for me. Next up, we look at the Polar Pacer Pro at $330. Now, on the plus side, Polar does a good job on the training load and the wellness and recovery. So they give you both aspects, which is a fundamentally important feature in today's competitive landscape. So you have what's called Training Load Pro, which tracks your 7-day strain and compares it to your last 4 weeks or 28 days of strain to see if your strain is pushing your averages upwards or pushing them downwards. In addition, they do an in-depth sleep analysis, which they call Nightly Recharge, which basically looks at your autonomic nervous system rejuvenation over a bunch of stats, as well as your sleep score, which is a compilation of a bunch of stats from your sleep analysis. Now, on the con side of the Polar Pacer Pro, it's somewhat one-dimensional of a platform, meaning you can't do a lot of customization. You can't expand beyond the simple metrics that are available on the watch. And there's a little bit of a glitchy backbone to it. The notifications, I've said in many reviews, the notifications don't come in sometimes. Sometimes they come in fine, and sometimes past notifications that you didn't get when they actually arrived all come in all at once. So in a little bit of a lag on the processor speed. So some basic things there, but in the final verdict, it's good, but it's just not great in the competitive landscape that you could see in other watch companies, namely Garmin. Next, we have the Apex 2. Now, this is not the Apex 2 Pro, which offers some additional features. Now, on the pros side of the Apex 2 at $400 cost, it has incredibly quality build design. So it's got a titanium bezel and back, as well as sapphire glass. Now that's a big feature. It does have training load tracking, as well as training effect tracking, the aerobic and anaerobic impact of each workout, and a recovery time, which counts down. The recovery time is just based on the rigor of the workout. And on top of that, they actually have uploaded maps to almost all their primary larger memory storage watches. And so it has a mapping system built into it. The Pro has the ability to have all the maps in the world, and the Apex 2, the base model, which is what we're comparing it to now at the $400 price point, has, you can pick and choose what maps you would like to upload. Now on the con side, Coros, for whatever reason, has still not expanded into the wellness or recovery landscape when it comes to overall health recovery. So there's virtually no wellness. You have sleep tracking, but to me, it's just a big mess. You don't have any guidance like a sleep score system. And there's, they do have ability to do spot check HRV, heart rate variability tracking, but it doesn't automatically happen, and it doesn't happen more than your manually controlled spot checks. And then the last major con for those in the CrossFit and high intensity interval community is that it's running heavy, running dependent even to access the training load, training recovery, the recovery scores tracking system, because you have to run for a long period of time before it even turns that system on, which many people have found to be not acceptable. That you have to run for a long time. So the verdict with the Apex 2 is that it's an excellent design, excellent quality, and it could provide quality training load analysis. But the fact that it is missing the whole second half of the equation with any kind of real in-depth wellness and health recovery type tracking metrics makes it not an option for both sides of the coin. And then last, we're going to look at the Apple Watch Series 8 at $400. Now, the SE is $250, but I think you really have to look at the Series 8 to get the more full spectrum. Now, on the Pro side, the Apple Watch just across the board has the best heart rate accuracy on the device when tracking a CrossFit or more fluctuant variant heart rate type of a workout like high intensity interval training is. Additionally, it is definitely a full-on mini computer on your wrist and the best smartwatch available. And it has the most brilliant screen because it's the only AMOLED screen of the ones we're talking about. And the screen is just big and beautiful. But on the con side is when you get into the base things you might need it for when running a heavy training regimen. And that is the training load tracking, as well as the wellness and recovery tracking. It's all driven through third-party apps, which you have to compile bits of information from third-party places. But all those third-party apps are dependent on what metrics are being streamed or tracked on the Apple Watch itself. And tragically, the Apple Watch does not track out of the box the heart rate variability metrics. It'll do spot checks every 2 to 3 hours, which is not in any way a continuous stream of HRV to be able to flow through to true wellness or recovery analytics. Additionally, there's no native all-in-one simple place training load and training effect type tracking or recovery tracking or some of the wellness. You're pulling these pieces from different apps, and it just doesn't have the all-in-one simple summary and depth at any level, depth in my opinion, of what you would want from what you're looking at on the competitive landscape. So the verdict there is it's an awesome smartwatch with a disjointed everything else, and that being the primary things you might want to track when you're doing a heavier training program with this training and wellness recovery. So let's talk about the 255 and the suite of features it offers. Now, the thing I would say at the outset about the 255, and what I forgot to mention on the Apple Watch Series 8, is just the horrendous battery life. barely 24 hours. You're sort of tethered to a charger. But when you look at the 255, I feel like looking at the competitive landscape, it has the most comprehensive set of features on both sides of the coin, on type of both sides of the coin. And on top of it, it's got some other sort of niche things that make it really valuable. The first being its 1.3-inch screen. Now that is simple, but it is the biggest of the screens we're talking about. It obviously doesn't compare to an Apple Watch AMOLED type screen, but it's got a 14-day battery life, which is the longest of the battery lives of what we've talked about, except for the Apex 2, which is somewhat competitive. But now we're talking 1.3-inch screen, 1.2 on the Apex 2. It's also got dual band GPS, which we haven't mentioned on a lot of those other watches. The dual band GPS on the Garmin 255 is a significant feature that was a little bit unexpected when it came out, which means it can connect to 2 satellites at the same time. And even more than that, Garmin has developed what's called Sat IQ, which means you can just sort of set it up to be smart, to say, well, if we're in an area where we need to hold on to those 2, then we'll use the battery life to do so. But if we're in an area where we don't need to hold on, we'll just hold on to 1, and that's all we need to save power. Additionally, they've introduced nightly heart rate variability tracking, which is an in-depth chart of your whole night's sleep, looking at a bunch of heart rate variability measurements, and you can see 7-day trend lines over your heart rate variability. And then on top of that, for the last 3-4 years, Garmin has actually been tracking heart rate variability. It's just been compiled in a stress score, which relates to a body battery, which shows your sort of depletion of internal resources when it comes to how much stress you're under based on heart rate variability. But it's all driven off 24/7 heart rate variability tracking. That's the metric that drives all that. And Garmin has been doing that for a long time. And now they're just adding a more in-depth, specific look at your night's sleep. Additionally, they added a nice feature called the morning report, which you can basically see a summary of your wellness and readiness for, your training aspects when it comes to how hard, how well you slept, and your body battery rejuvenation, your heart rate variability, workout training recommendations for the next day, any calendar events, and then the weather. Additionally, Garmin has expanded, or they've been doing it for a while, but they're continuing to expand their tie-in with third-party applications. That means widgets or little data fields, the watch faces you can pull from third parties, as well as application development, which is continually growing more and more. And then when you get to the training side, the 255 used to have a lighter version of Garmin's advanced training analytics, and now it's got a more full-fledged version. So it will do the aerobic and anaerobic training effect or impact of that one particular workout. But on top of that, it gives you the overall load focus, like what type of load you put on your body, and a tracking history of what types of workouts you've done more often than others, so that you can maybe look at other types of training load to build into your training regimen. Additionally, when it comes to the rigor of a workout, it has a running clock for recovery time. Now, Coros offers a recovery time running clock, but Garmin's is an advanced recovery time, which takes the rigor of the one workout and couples it with your rejuvenation of your body battery and the quality of your last night's sleep. And sometimes it'll say you need to take a little bit more time before you hit a next hard workout because your day was stressful or you didn't sleep well, not just looking in isolation at the rigor of the one workout. Last is obviously the sleep and the wellness outside of heart rate variability tracking. And they have sleep tracking, which gives the sleep stages, but more than that, has a 6-point sleep score system, which takes 6 different aspects of your sleep and gives you a score to sort of set your day and set your mindset in going into it. So on the con side of this, when you look at the most rigorous workouts, it's not as accurate as heart rate accuracy as the Apple Watch, but is more accurate than the others that have been tracked or others that have been mentioned. It's in like the 90 to 92% accuracy range, which is high level accuracy, but not as accurate as the Apple Watch. Additionally, the build quality is an all plastic model. So it's not going to be as sort of glorious to look at. It's a little bit simple, but on the flip side, it does bring about a lighter weight, which makes it just less burdensome to wear on an all-day basis. So what do I think in summary? In looking at all the competitive landscape and looking at the primary other 4 players are sort of in that same price range, I think that the Garmin Forerunner 255 offers a far more comprehensive option for all the training features and all the wellness and recovery features at a much deeper level on many of these different metrics than any of these others provide. And they do so with a far more expansive or customizable platform to be able to incorporate third-party apps. Or if you wanted to pay extra $50 and bump up to $400 price point, you can have music storage. Now, the Apex 2 might have some storage on it, but it doesn't it's all MP3 based instead of being able to download Spotify playlists like the Garmin 255 Music allows or the Amazon Music playlist. And so that makes that storage of value. They don't have maps, so that's a con. But when you look at all the different things that the 255 offers, now looking back across the whole last 12 months and watches that came out right before or have come out since, the 255 is far and away, to me, the best and far superior training watch and recovery and wellness watch that you can find on the market today. So I just wanted to do an update, a re-review 7 months down the line from when it was released on June 1st, and just sort of share that with the world. So if you like this view, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more. It's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.